Welcome to the Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth podcast. I am your host, Nathan Barkocy. In the True Wealth community and on this podcast, we are passionate about creating time freedom, impact, and purpose through real assets and real relationships. Because true wealth isn't solely what you have, it's who you become. All right. Well, Ethan, thank you for being with me now. I was interviewing your brother earlier this morning, and so I am very excited to dive into this with you, get your perspective of how you two have been able to build up such an incredible real estate portfolio at such a young age. So could you tell my audience a little bit about yourself, how you got started, your age, how you guys are doing, where you're growing your real estate portfolio now?
Sure. So just an introduction of myself, Ethan Wohlwend, co-host of the Real Power Family radio show. Real estate-wise, I own 42 units currently and have 16 more under contract, basically, or handshake agreement more, not under contract yet. But I really got interested in real estate because my parents had been going to meetings, just small local, they're called REIA meetings, Real Estate Investor Associations. And it's just anywhere from a small group, like 10 to 20 people. It depends on where. And he'd go there and learn, and he'd end up bringing my brother and I when we were babies in baby carriers. So we just grew up around there, and it was a normal thing to go there. And I remember the one place we'd always go every Wednesday morning was a small restaurant, and they had kind of a play area outside of the room where the conference isn't the right word, the breakfast was held. And my brother and I would usually hang out there and play. But as we got older, we started to absorb more and started to listen and learn more. And so we started just sitting inside and listening instead of playing outside in the kids area. And another big factor was I had seen other people, or I had seen my parents. I never really heard my parents complain about money or that they were struggling or anything like that. I never heard anything like that go on when I grew up. But I had heard, like, my friends and other kids, their families had issues with money. I'm like, well, how come my family doesn't have any of these issues, but other people do? Like, what's going on with that? And that's kind of where I learned about the premise of financial freedom and money. And it's like, I want to do that. I don't want to have to worry about anything when I grow up. I just want to have fun. You know, probably what most kids would want.
Right.
So I learned about real estate and passive income and stuff like that. And it's like, all right, well, how can I get into real estate? And my brother told you about the story on how he started investing. He went up to my dad when he was 5 and said, "Hey, Dad, I think it's time I start investing. What should I invest in?" And he recommended Legos. And I don't know if he brought it up. I didn't hear what he talked about. Did he? I think he told me before we started, he talked about how he partnered with me when I was like 3 years old.
Yeah, he was explaining to me that he was 5 years old and you were 3 years old, and he needed to raise capital for his first investment, which was Legos. And he had some money, but he needed more, so he figured, I need to partner with someone. I need to bring in a partner. And easy enough, his younger brother would be his partner, and so you guys could partner together on the first investment of Legos.
Yeah. I don't know if he said this, but I was what you would call a hand-holding partner.
Uh-huh.
I didn't actually bring much to the table other than like a little bit of money, but
and a little bit of a confidence boost.
A confidence boost, yeah, because I was his brother. But we were getting a $500 Lego set at the time, and I don't know how much he had, but I did not bring that much to the table, and I made even less than him if I was working for working for my parents.
Yeah.
So that didn't go super well. But it was a good learning experience. And I don't know if he said this, but honestly, doing that Lego deal, I'm glad we did it. He probably got a lot more out of that than I did, but looking back on it, I can still pull lessons from that. When I helped him with that, it taught him about hire professionals. Don't get a hand-holding partner, get a good partner, which I'm sure there are plenty of people in the real world who would say be very careful on what partners you choose. But also, excuse me, I didn't know what I was doing because I was 3 at the time. I didn't know a whole lot of anything.
Yeah.
So learning more about something before I invest, which really is getting nailed into me at this conference, the New Orleans Investment Conference, because I don't understand. I get the general purpose of, or like the meaning of a lot of what they're teaching here about exploration companies and mining companies and stuff like that. But I still want to learn more before I put money on the line.
Yeah.
And if I especially don't want to try and teach something if I don't understand it myself. So if you listen to my radio show, I'll talk about government and some of the flaws that they have, and I'll talk about real estate, gold, and silver is really the main thing when it comes to investing, because that's what I've done. So that's what I want to talk about.
Right, yeah, and you've done that, right? So there's proof. And there's there's some pushback, right, from people who see you guys, you're 15, your brother's 18, see you guys doing this, and they say, how could this happen, right? How would you be able to live a life like this at such a young age? But really what I'm hearing from you is, first of all, partnership, which we can dive into in shortly. Partnership is very important. Learning is very important. And then utilizing your time, right? Utilizing your time, because instead of going and playing, you guys thought, I'm just going to sit in on these meetings, right? And try to absorb some information.
Yeah,
you are making such high value of your time when you're doing that, right?
Yeah, and I want to emphasize this as much as I can. I'm going to do my best to stay on track. If I veer off the path of teaching about, if I veer off the path too much, if I get on a tangent, stop me, because I have a tendency to do that. But time is our most valuable commodity. You can't get any more of that. And people always say, it was said at this conference in the beginning, what's the best time to start investing? 20 years ago.
Yep.
Well, guess what? For all the listeners out there or viewers who are, teenagers or are young like me, today is that time. And I hear a lot of people say, enjoy your childhood. First off, I'm going to a bunch of events like this. I get to meet a bunch of cool people. I get to talk to a bunch of cool people. And not to brag, but I got to fly down here in my own private airplane. This is fun to me. This is a fun childhood. I don't know what kid out there wouldn't want to do something like this.
Right.
So there's that. And also, like I was saying, people say the best time to start investing is 20 years ago, or the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Well, as a young person, as a kid, you get to be at that 20-year mark, that 20 years earlier. Why not start now? Yes, depending on how young you are, if you're under 18, there might be some different problems, which I can get into how I got around, or how I started investing under 18. But there's definitely benefits to it, and I would highly recommend people out there, at the very least, learn about investing and consider it. Don't just push it off, because some people think about, that's one thing I heard is that's the devil's favorite word is tomorrow.
Tomorrow, right.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Yep.
I'll look at that tomorrow. I'll worry about it tomorrow. I'll do this school project or whatever tomorrow.
Right. That's what I say all the time is tomorrow is never promised. So let's make the most of today, right? Act today and get things done today. Take action today, because tomorrow is never promised, right? But we still need to plan for the future, right? So it's all long-term planning. Real estate's a long-term game. Investments are all long-term. But so you plan long-term, but you have to take that action, right? Make that investment today, right?
Investing is, at least how I've been raised, it depends on what you invest in. But I think most investments, at least most of the good investments, are long-term. Mm-hmm. Like real estate, I tell a lot of people this. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme or get-rich-quick thing. It's a get incredibly wealthy over a long period of time. Because, just a quick example, the way that Robert Helms explained it was, if you buy a property, you get a mortgage on it, and if you do it right, you only make, the example he gave was like $300 a year net,
right?
For, and that's for the whole year.
Yeah.
But you're slowly paying down your mortgage payment. And once you pay that off, you can make a lot of money. And there's a bunch of different benefits to real estate. Real estate's probably my favorite investment, and probably will be for a while.
Yeah.
Because there's so many benefits to it. You have appreciation, you have tax benefits, you have passive income. You can wholesale it if you want, so it doesn't have to be, you can make a bunch of money quickly, or you can make little bits of money, not consecutively, but
Continuously.
continuously.
Right.
That's what I was looking for.
Which is the same thing, and I used a DSCR loan to buy my townhome portfolio. So the tenants are paying off the mortgage, but I'm not cash flowing crazy amounts every single month. But of course, it's appreciating in value exponentially, specifically 7% last year. And so it's appreciating in value. So that's, banking in itself, right? Better than the bank. And then it's cash flowing, it's paying for itself. And then once, the mortgage is paid off, once all the expenses are covered, right? Then it's just a machine. It's moving forward, right? That's why real estate is just a long-term cash flowing, long-term investment, right?
Yeah. And there was something else I wanted to cover. How I started, because I want to get other people.
That was my next
people
question.
Wonder,
that's good, yeah.
Yeah, how does someone under 18? And that's one of the things that's probably one of the two main things I hear is you're wasting your childhood, and that's not possible. That's not legal. Well, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice.
Yeah.
But from what my family and I have done research on, a contract with a minor, at least in the state I'm in, Ohio, is legal but not enforceable. So there are some problems and issues that arise from being under 18 when investing. The main thing is you can't get a bank loan.
Mm-hmm.
But credit or a reputation, however you want to describe it, is very important, and I'm going to explain why in a minute. My first deal, I'll just walk through how I started. I had gone to a bunch of different real estate meetings for, basically since I was born, and I learned different like lessons and things to do. I started an LLC and put like $1,000 into it, which was pretty much everything I had. So I had an LLC with $1,000 in it. I ended up finding a mobile home. I bought the mobile home, cleaned it up. I intended to rent it out. Here's another lesson in here. I intended to rent it out because that's what that's what I seen my family do. My dad is very big on passive income and not, wholesaling. Because the thing with wholesaling is, if you do that, if the only thing you do is wholesaling, then you have to keep doing it. It's basically a job.
Right.
If you don't get that passive income, or as Warren Buffett says, if you don't figure out a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die.
Right.
My dad doesn't like to work, so he goes the passive route, and I was going to go that way too. But someone who worked for my mom's management company, not called me, but told me, she says, "Hey, I want to buy that mobile home you have. I'll pay you $2,000 for it." I had bought it for $1,000, and really the only thing I did was haul out some trash from the inside and sell it for $2,000. Well, I had heard from going to all these different events, buy low, sell high. I'm like, that sounds like a good deal. I'll do that. So sold it for $2,000, and here's the lesson I was trying to teach. My goal, what I thought would happen was I was going to rent it out, but an opportunity arose. Opportunity knocked at the door. And I could make 100% of my 100% profit from selling it. So I took that. I sold it, and I went out looking for a house to buy and rent. And as fate would say again, I did not find a house, but a 6-unit. And excuse me, just to go through that, there was a contractor who worked for my dad, and my dad likes to teach the people who work for him. If they're willing to learn, he likes to teach them how to invest and make money, basically. Because that's kind of an ongoing theme in my family. We like to teach people. We don't want to just be the person out there making money. We want to help other people, which is why I like getting on shows like this and why I have my radio show. And we just like to teach other people, basically, is what it boils down to. But he tried to teach this person how to basically build up a real estate empire like he had. And it doesn't always work out with the people he teaches. And this person in particular had a 6-unit, I think was the last thing he had. but he didn't manage it properly. And during the winter in Ohio, it gets cold up there, and water lines ended up freezing and breaking, which caused water damage in the 2 bottom units. And that pushed this contractor over his limit. He's like, I'm done. I don't want to deal with this anymore. Eric, you know what you're doing. Take it from me. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I think I was in the room and heard him say that, or somehow, I don't remember exactly how, I figured that I learned about that, and I'm like, this is a good opportunity. I wonder what can I do with this? And I only had $2,000 from selling the mobile home, but I figured, I'm sure I can make that work. I've heard about this creative financing thing.
There we go.
Plus, I might as well try, because if people have that preconceived notion of they can't do something, they're definitely not going to try. So I got to be willing to take, I don't know if take risks is the right word.
Yeah, well,
but
mitigated risks at least, right? So yeah, and then this is something that I kind of dove into a little bit earlier with your brother, but discussing the different types of leverage, right? So the seller financing, creative financing, subject to, this is how you guys, and then private lending, right? This is how you guys have been able to move forward. And that, like you said, you can't get a bank loan until 18, right? And so
yep.
You guys have been able to build up, you said you have 42 units?
Currently.
So you have 42 units and you're 15 years old, and you've been able to build up that entire portfolio solely based upon private lending. I mean, subject to, right, all of these creative financing opportunities.
Yes.
So explain to myself and to the audience how you've been able to do that, how you leverage that, what your connections were, and how they would be able to do it as well.
Well, a couple different examples. I used the 6 unit, which I just brought up. I only had $2,000, which I didn't think was going to be enough to buy it, but I figured I might as well try. No harm in that. So I did some due diligence, and I figured out that, the contractor who owned that 6 unit, he had 2 mortgages, and he had past due payments for both of those. He wasn't paying his mortgages. So I looked at who does he owe, who holds the mortgage, who does he owe money to. There were 2 different people. One of them I knew. It was a friend from those REIA groups that I had mentioned that I went to, Real Estate Investor Associations. But the other person I didn't know, and neither did my dad, which was a little more scary to me because, kids talking to people. So I started with the person who I did know, who was also my homeschool evaluator at the time. I found that kind of funny. But I talked to her and basically said, hey, I want to take over the mortgage on this 6 unit. And she's like, okay, if you pay the past due payments, then I'll let you take over the mortgage. I'm like, okay. And my $2,000 covered those past due payments. So all that was one of the 2. Now all I had to do was get the other person to let me take over the mortgage. But since I didn't know her, I said, hey, Dad, can you can you tell this person I want to take over the mortgage on their 6 unit? So he called up and basically said that my son wants to take over the mortgage on your 6 unit. Let's meet up so we can talk about it. I don't think he mentioned that I was 7 at the time,
right.
But details.
So I was going to ask you, was her reaction, what was her reaction?
Honestly, I don't remember what her reaction was. My dad could probably tell you better.
Yeah.
But when we showed up, I know we talked at her kitchen table for a while, and I had figured out a couple interesting details. She actually knew my grandfather, because my grandpa was a dentist in like a very small town, cornering a couple stoplights, and she worked for that same town. And it's, small town, so everyone knows each other.
Right.
But also, she liked and respected my grandfather. And also, and another interesting thing, this was probably one of the bigger reasons why she let me take over the mortgage. She didn't get paid at all. That contractor had that mortgage for 2 years and didn't pay her a single time.
Wow.
So, not to slander the contractor's name, but that is definitely not what you want to do
right.
to your private lenders.
No way.
Big thing that my dad always teaches. You take care of your private lenders, especially for those of you under 18 who are reliant on private lenders and
right.
creative financing and stuff. You really want to take care of your private lenders. You always pay them early, on time or early.
Yeah.
Plan for early in case something goes wrong.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's amazing how nice and how many opportunities are opened when you just take care of
Yeah.
people.
And you really build your credibility, right? So if you're able to create such a strong relationship with one private lender and you can continue to show that consistency across the board, right? That's going to really help build your credibility and move you forward with other deals. Has that been the case with you guys?
Yep. In fact, the person who held actually it was the second mortgage, I think. One of the mortgages on the 6th unit, my homeschool evaluator and friend from a REIA group, I'm working with her to get more loans, in fact, on that same 6th unit. That way I can get money to put a down payment, or actually to pay cash, for a 16 unit in Tennessee. That's the 16 units under contract, or handshake agreement, I guess. But that was kind of an opening thing, an introduction to help build my credibility. Not only can I refer her to any other private lender and say, hey, if you want to know, have I ever paid late or anything, ask these people. And not only can I get a referral from them, but also the one person who didn't get paid for 2 years didn't really want to deal with lending anymore. But the home skill evaluator and friend from REIA group has lended to me multiple more times, and to the rest of my family quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing. So then, with all of your doors, what's the average holding? Is it 4 doors, 10 doors? You have 42 total, and I know you have a 16 under contract now. Do you have 30 doors in one? What's your average holding?
I don't know a specific number for average. I know I have a 6 unit. I have 20% of a 6D unit, which, that's another creative deal. I got 2 more things to bring up for creative financing.
Yeah.
I have quite a few duplexes, actually, and a decent amount of single-family houses.
So you stick to the smaller stuff, right? Not the huge multifamily. It's more of the...
Not exactly.
Okay.
That's something that a lot of people do, is they, I guess, limit themselves. Because some people ask me when I'm at real estate events, do you buy single family or multifamily? I'm like, I buy whatever makes money. I don't care. They're boxes on a shelf.
Right.
All I care about is every month, do they spit out money, or do I need to put money into them? So I don't care what color the outside is. I don't care if the kitchen looks pretty. I just care about how much money I make. And if it's 16 small boxes in one, as long as it spits out money, that's good. If it's a bunch of single-family boxes, as long as they spit out money, right, they're good in my book. I'll buy them.
Right? Yeah. Okay. So you were saying there was more that you wanted to go into.
Yes. A couple different examples of not private lending, creative financing.
Yeah, creative financing.
Subject 2 is a big one. I like to talk about this story because it's funny to say that someone gave me a house for $18,000. While technically it might kind of be true, that's not exactly what happened. This person, who is a friend of ours, had bought a handful of houses at the top of the market, and she borrowed way too much on them. Market went down, and she had these massive mortgages on the houses that weren't worth that much. And she had wanted to retire, so she called up my dad and said, Eric, can you take these houses off of my hands? I know I'm going to need to bring money to closing because I spent too much on them, but can you take these off my hands? Because she wanted to retire, and she didn't want a bad move out, or a roof or siding or windows repair, or something that would cost a lot of money and cause hassle in her life. So some of them were in a bad area, so my dad was like, I'll buy one of them, but I ain't buying in Akron. That city sucks. So he brought them to my brother and I, and all 3 of us, my brother, my dad, and I ended up buying one. And the one I got, I'm going to make up numbers because I don't remember the exact amounts, but basically, she had a $48,000 mortgage on this house, but I was only willing to pay $30,000 on it. So she ended up bringing $18,000 to closing and basically gave me $18,000 to buy the property. So while I got $18,000 in my pocket, and that sounds funny to say, I got paid $18,000 to take a house, I still technically offered 30 grand for the house. She got 30 grand in, I guess, value, but not liquid cash, if that makes sense.
That's really interesting, right?
But subject to is a good way. Really, it's all, I think of it as just looking at getting a loan. I can either get a loan from a bank, but since they don't like to loan to minors because a contract is legal but not enforceable, I've talked to a bunch of different banks, including Battle Bank. They're not fond of loaning to me. But I don't care who the loan's from. I really just care about the interest rate. If I get private lenders, as long as I can get the interest rate to work, if I have a 10 cap property, or here, I'll make the math simple. If I have a 14 cap property, then I'll be happy with a 10% or lower interest rate. I want a 4%, it's called arbitrage, which really means spread. I make 14% and I only spend 10% on interest. That's really my goal. That's what I want. And that 4% is fun money, or more reinvestment money.
Right.
But I don't care where I get the loan from. I don't care if I take over the loan subject to, if it's in someone else's name. I don't care if I get owner financing, which I guess I think about it as it's just the owner is lending me money on the property, when in reality it's just I take the property and make payments on it. Or, again, private lending, where it's a bank loan but with a normal person.
Right, yeah. So there's so many options to pursue for real estate and for lending, and that's the beauty of real estate, right? Is that it's not you have to bring your own money to the deal, right? It's all other people's money, and that's what, same thing with a syndication. You know, if you go out and raise capital for a larger project or for development or for whatever you're deciding to pursue, right? It's all utilizing other people's money and leveraging that, right, for exactly what you're doing, building up your portfolio. So as our podcast is coming to an end, because I know we have a lot booked up right now, I know we are going to continue to be in touch, and I'd love to continue to work with you. What do you think is one key lesson or advice that you can give to any investor right now, whether they're starting off or whether they've built a 42-unit portfolio like yourself?
To go off of what we were just talking about, but to still wrap this up, my brother would say be creative and take action. Don't just, if you come across the hardship, don't just give up. There's always something that you can do. And that's one of the great things, especially about real estate. There's a bunch of different things you can do. Like we just talked about different ways to come up with money. And yet that's one of people's biggest things that hold them back is they say, I can't come up with the money. I don't have the money. Well, you don't need the money. You just need to find someone else who has the money, and how can you provide value to them? And really in real estate, I like to make it so everyone wins. It's always a win-win deal. The more value you provide to people, the more value you will receive from people or from the world, or however you want to put that. So I want to make the lender's life better. Now, use the example of my 6 unit. The person who didn't get paid for 2 years, after I took over the mortgage, she finally got paid. So she was happy. Was she getting paid by a 7-year-old? Yes. Did she care? Probably not. She finally got paid.
Right.
I was happy. I got a 6 unit. I started investing, and I was making passive income from that. And the contractor who was the previous owner, he was happy because he didn't have to deal with the hassle of real estate anymore. It was a win for everyone, and that's the goal, is you just be creative, find different ways to where you can provide value and make it a win for everyone in the deal. Right.
Everybody wants you to win, really. When you're in a deal, everyone wants you to win. So that's the whole key, is build up the team around you and remember to keep investing into the main street. I appreciate everything that you've done, Ethan, and thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me on here.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to the Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth podcast. This is Nathan Barkocy, and please remember that tomorrow is never promised. So I encourage you to go make the most of today.